Welcome back to the channel. So today I want to share a concept called stealth wealth. I just learned about this recently. I know it's been a pretty popular concept over the past couple of months. So I did a deep dive as to what the rules of stealth wealth are and want to share how I'm starting to apply it to my life. So the definition of stealth wealth is blending into a pure normal middle class, nothing out of the ordinary to avoid anger and resentment. So a mistake that I made when I was first getting into real estate and starting to buy apartment complexes, single family homes, and mobile home parks, and this was back in 2021, and I was shouting everything to everybody. I would share everything about what I was doing, what real estate I was buying, how I invest in index funds. I'm very transparent, uh, about that. And I was sharing that with coworkers, with friends, and I noticed a lot of anger and resentment. And it just really shocked me because I was hoping that, from my perspective, I wish someone would teach me and tell me. But for other people, if they hear about your success, if they hear about all the assets that you own, they get angry because it makes them feel bad about themselves. And they start to resent you, not because of you, just as a projection to protect their own ego. So I started getting a lot of negative feedback, and it was really shocking to me. In my mind, I wish I would have somebody who was this open, this transparent, this willing to share. And from then, I can learn and know it's possible so that I can do it myself and learn from them. That's the mindset that I have. What I learned is many people do not have that same mindset. Their mindset is a set mindset, it's very constant, steady. Some have a victim mindset. So, in order to protect themselves from hearing something that makes them feel uncomfortable, they're going to direct their anger and their resentment towards you. So, I felt this firsthand when I first started getting into investing, first started getting into real estate. And I've been sharing this with coworkers. Some hated me, some resented me. I shared this with close friends. They hated me, they resented me for that. So that's just been my personal experience. So I share a lot of wealth about my wealth on YouTube. And honestly, this is for educational purposes. And this is kind of my outlet to share. But if you see me in person, when I'm talking with my friends, my family, my coworkers, I don't share anything about my wealth or my investments or what I'm doing outside of work. Like I said, in 2021, I used to share everybody. Oh, I started off house hacking. I would buy a house with 10% down, live in the master bedroom, and rent out the other bedrooms, and that would cover my living expenses. Now, all I tell my staff, my friends, and my family is that they know I own a couple single family homes. They don't know I own apartment complexes or mobile home parks unless they catch me on my channel. And I'm just a regular 33-year-old guy who's renting an apartment in Southern California. It's very relatable. A lot of pharmacists that I know that are around my age, they're just trying to buy a house, their first house. And it just makes me seem very unrelatable if I tell them, hey, I own 90 units of real estate and this is my net worth. Usually I would expect them to be, hey, can you teach me how to do that? But the reality is, it makes them feel bad about themselves because they're the same age as me. They're just trying to buy their first single family home to live in, and it makes them feel behind. So as a result, they'll feel anger and they'll feel resentment, and that's what I want to avoid. So now I don't share anything. They barely know anything about my assets. They barely know anything about my investments, and they barely know anything about my side hustles. All they know is that I work as a pharmacy director and I rent an apartment in Southern California. Very relatable. So as a result, I just blend in. I don't stick out. I'm not out of the ordinary. So I just blend in and I don't stick out. That's the key. So an example I like to give is, and I kind of mentioned it, is how relatable am I if I own 90 units of real estate at 33 while making over six figures as a pharmacy director? There's a lot that's unrelatable about that statement. Number one, most people just strive to make six figures and they feel like they'd be set if they made six figures at their job. I've been making six figures for the past 10 years. Some people would be amazed and happy just to own one house that they live in. A lot of people never get to own a house. So a lot of these pharmacists that I work with, they're just looking to buy their first house, and even they're struggling despite making a six-figure salary. So if I told them I own 90 units, once again, not very relatable. And people instantly associate wealthy people as evil or arrogant. And once again, it's a projection to protect their own ego because they have not obtained it, that wealth, since they have not obtained that financial freedom. It's easier for them to reject it and paint it as evil to create a story in their mind that protects themselves. That's how our brain is made and geared. It's made to protect ourselves and create stories to protect ourselves. So as a result, that's why wealthy people have a very negative connotation and a very evil connotation. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people who are wealthy and they're evil. My statement has always been wealth accentuates who you are already. If you're a good person, you're a good person whether you have money, whether you don't have money. If you're evil regardless if you have money or no money. If you're evil with money, it just gives you a larger platform to share your evilness. So because of that, I just kind of just keep it low key. My coworkers don't know that I own assets, and they just assume that I don't try as hard since I'm rich and I'm just working for fun, right? So let's just say if my coworkers knew I owned assets, they will automatically assume, oh, Steven, he doesn't need to work, work's optional, he doesn't need to try that hard, and he's just doing this for fun. And that's not going to make people happy, right? Because it doesn't make them feel good that you built a large net worth and they just resent you to protect their own egos, but they don't realize that I've sacrificed a lot over the past 10 years. I sacrificed nice things. I sacrificed fancy vacations. I sacrificed, time out with my friends. I've sacrificed my free time. Instead of watching Netflix and scrolling social media, I would go out and look at houses, analyze deals, learn more about real estate. I put in a lot of time and effort, and it's finally starting to compound after 10 years. So people resent that. And I hear it too. Like I have one pharmacist at the hospital I work at, and she's kind of known as being the rich girl, comes from a rich family, and a lot of the other staff will give her a hard time saying, oh, you don't need to try as hard. You don't need to work. You're just doing this for fun. Why are you even here? And she already has all these negative connotations thrown at her. And that's just because she's associated with being rich versus everyone else. They're working hard. They're working 1, 2, 3 different jobs just to, survive, just to spend. And well, the reality is a lot of the pharmacists that do work 3 jobs, I can really look at their spending habits and they're just spending a lot of money. Like a lot of the pharmacists who work a lot, they bought too much house than they need. They go on really nice lavish vacations and spend double what they should. They have, Tesla Model X's, which costs $100,000 when they just can get away with maybe a Camry. So it's just easy to get resented if you're kind of known as being rich and you own a lot of assets, especially in the W-2 world. So that's kind of the downside of working in the W-2 world. That's one of the downsides. It's great income, it's steady income, but you're going to have to kind of stay hidden, not really share what you're doing behind the scenes after work hours. And then eventually one day you may leave your job and they may ask you why. At that point, you can review, oh, I've been working on a side business. I've been investing in real estate. I've been trying to build a social media channel. At that point, you can retire and then you won't be a target of the resentment or the anger. So that's what I kind of learned from my own personal experience. So to kind of summarize, I kind of got burned a little bit. So now I naturally just don't share as much in person. I share a lot on YouTube for education, and it it's an outlet for me to kind of share it to people who actually want to consume my content, who actually want to learn and don't point anger and resentment towards me. So if you have a large net worth, there's no need to flaunt it in person. People who flaunt their wealth are insecure and covering up for something. This is what I see a lot, especially in Los Angeles. It's very superficial, it's very materialistic in Southern California. And let me kind of show you some examples. So I know a lot of people, they make half of what I make. They make around 70 to 80K, half what I make. They drive nicer cars than me. They have a newer BMW than me. They go on nicer vacations than me. They buy fancy brand name things more than me. They go to fancy restaurants at all times. They live in a nicer place than me. And they make half of my income just to show it off. And I always wondered how. Like, how can they even afford this lifestyle? They must be literally living paycheck to paycheck or have some sort of credit card debt. There's no way. Even if I were to live that same lifestyle, I feel like I'd spend all my money. And I make twice as them just through my day job. So they're constantly flaunting the wealth. I have a lot of people where they're constantly flexing. Oh, I ate this nice restaurant. Oh, I just bought this new thing. Oh, I just went to this concert. I just went to this event. I went to this party. Oh, I own this. I own 3 single family homes. And they're just trying to flaunt it to me. And they don't even realize that I own 90 units of real estate and I'm saying nothing. I'm just being quiet because I don't need to flaunt my wealth, to flaunt my assets, to make myself feel better about myself. I'm not covering it for anything. I used to do that, but now I'm at the point where I just want to do what I want to do, and I don't really care what people think. And if I feel like you're somebody who I can get close with and share some of my knowledge and experience, then I'll share. But if it just seems like you're just trying to compete against me, and if I somehow beat you, then you get resentful towards me and arrogant and defensive, then I don't want to associate with you. So that's why I kind of learned is I just kind of ask questions. I don't talk as much, and I let them talk. And it's funny to see that they're flaunting something when they don't realize that they're flaunting to somebody who has something more. So if I take that example to myself, if I'm trying to show off that I have 90 units and I'm talking to a guy who owns 500 units themselves about partners, then and they're younger than me, then I miss out on the opportunity to learn. So that's why it's very key not to, flaunt your wealth and don't cover things up. So, for me, most Asian Americans, I grew up with very low self-esteem, and I used my net worth to overcompensate for that for the longest time. My self-confidence was tied to my financial success, whether that was getting a pharmacy director job, getting a higher paying job, owning 1 single family home, 2 single family homes, 3 single family homes, apartments, mobile home parks. So I would use that to overcompensate for the fact that I had low self-esteem. I would use achievement to cover that up. But as my self-confidence goes up, as my self-worth goes up, as my net worth goes up, I feel like less of a need to prove that I'm successful. There's nothing for me to prove anymore. I already have the evidence. I built up a real estate portfolio of 90 units. I hit the peak of my pharmacy career at the age of 27. There's nothing left to prove there. I achieved everything I set myself out to achieve. Like, never would I thought by 33, despite how negative I may get, I would have achieved all this. But to be honest, at the end of the day, I have the evidence and my lifestyle doesn't really change. Like, I'll be honest, despite owning 90 units, I still work at W2. Despite owning 90 units, I still drive the same BMW car that I bought used in 2013. I had the same car for 10 years. Despite owning 90 units, I still live in a studio apartment and share it with my girlfriend in Southern California, when I used to live in a huge 4 or 5 bedroom house that was 2,300 square foot. And I live in a small place that's half the size as most people. And people just ask me, why? You're a pharmacy director. Why do you live in a studio? Despite owning 90 units, I don't splurge on fancy hotels. I can afford it, but I don't find additional value in staying in a 5-star hotel versus a 2 or 3 star hotel, because I'm never in my hotel anyways when I travel. If I travel, I'm usually outside, out and about, exploring something new. I don't want to be in my hotel. So because of that, my lifestyle hasn't really changed. And to be honest, I could live this lifestyle if I had no real estate. So whether I had no real estate or 90 units of real estate, just work my W-2, I can live the same lifestyle. So I haven't really seen things change, and I have a track record. No one can take that away from me. Like, I have 10 years of pharmacy experience. No one can take that away from me. I've been a pharmacy director for 6 years. No one can take that away from me. I own apartment complexes, single family homes, mobile home parks, about partners. No one can take that away from me. So the more my self-confidence went up and my self-worth went up and my self-esteem improved, I have no more need to prove anything to anybody. So as a result, I just kind of keep quiet. And if I kind of sense that someone needs my help or guidance and they're receptive to it, and I can tell, I might share a little bit to test the waters. And if they're receptive to it, I might share a little bit more slowly and slowly. So just know overall, I'm pretty low key about my wealth and assets outside the YouTube channel. Like I said, if they find my YouTube channel, they'll figure out everything about me. But in person, no one really knows. Not many people know. There's only a select few that really know how much I truly own. So let me talk about some stealth wealth rules that I learned and how I apply them. So the first rule is don't drive a nice car to a public setting. So I'm sure you see it. You go to Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills. People will pull up in Lamborghinis, Audi R8s, nice cars, McLarens, and they want to show off. They rev the car because they want that attention. For me, I drive that same 2010 3 Series BMW that I bought used back in 2013. I still drive that same BMW. Don't get me wrong, BMW is still a nice car, but it's about right for me. Most pharmacists, when we graduate, buy a BMW or an Audi. Now it's a Tesla. So it's nothing different. I'm a pharmacy director, so it's expected I have a little bit nicer of a car. But at the time when I bought my car at 23, that was my dream car. And I just thought, I went through this past 5 years of hard work to graduate from pharmacy school early. I want to treat myself. That was my mindset. Now, fast forward to today, honestly, I have no difference driving a BMW or driving my Camry, which I also own. I have no change in how I feel. My dream car now is an Audi R8, and I can afford it. And eventually, I probably will buy myself to treat myself. But I already know if I own it for 1 year, it gets old fast. That's how I feel of anything new. Once you own it for a couple months, it just feels the same. It feels like nothing. If anything, it feels more scary if I hit the curb with a brand new Audi R8 versus my used 2010 BMW. So I drove the same car for 10 years, despite increasing my net worth to around $5 million. So my net worth was negative 10 years ago because I had student debt to 5 million today. I still drive the same car. It just gets me from point A to point B. That's it. I don't rev it. I'm not obnoxious about it. And, it's a nicer than average car, but not super luxurious. So it blends in well, especially Southern California. I know a lot of people own BMWs despite making half what I make and probably have a negative net worth. Probably have a car loan on there. And, most of the pharmacists that report to me, they drive nicer cars than me. Like, my car is old and used, and it's 13 years old. So they're just really shocked every time I pull up in my BMW. Sometimes I drive my Camry as well to work, and they're just like, wow, that's a pretty humble car. So if, let's say I pull up to work in an Audi R8, my pharmacist will look at me differently. They would just say, wow, he's rich. He doesn't need to work. Why is he here? And they would treat me a certain way, might have resentment towards me, might have hatred towards me. And that's all because they're trying to protect themselves. So in the future, if I do buy my dream Audi R8, when I go around in public, to be honest, I'll probably just drive my beater car, which would probably be like a SUV or something like that. So stealth rule number 1, don't drive a nice car in a public setting. So the second rule is don't flash your bling. So fortunately for me, I'm not really into brand name things like Chanel, Gucci, Supreme, Nike, all those brand names, to me, it's all the same. Like as long as the clothes kind of fits me well and it's simple and neutral and matches with everything and I don't think about it, that's it. Like for me, the thing I'll splurge on is wrinkle-free shirts and wrinkle-free pants because I'm too lazy to iron my pants and shirts after wearing it. That's the one thing I'll invest in. I still shop on clearance. If I want to, like my favorite store is Express. They always have the end of the year sales, and that's when I buy things. I buy things on sale, despite having a high net worth or a decent net worth. I'm not really into fancy watches or suits. I know a lot of guys, they own like 10 different Rolexes, but they're still working a W-2 job because they spend all their money on a Rolex instead of investing in assets that pay you. They're investing all their money into fancy liabilities. I buy most of my clothes, as I mentioned, on sale, and I focus more on the fit versus the brand name. Like I don't care. As long as it fits me well, I like the design and it's neutral and it's simple, great. If I spill something on a $10 shirt, I don't feel as bad. Versus if I had a $1,000 Gucci shirt and I spilled some wine on there, I would feel terrible. So for me, I don't really flash my bling. I just keep things very simple, very humble, very low key. And I don't see that in LA. In LA, everyone flashes everything. People walk around with those gold chains. They walk around with a bunch of nice purses and jewelry. Everything I have is very simple, very humble, nothing out of the ordinary. If you do like brand name stuff like Gucci, LV, you can buy their products that's more low key. Some people like to flash things and make it gaudy and flashy and in your face because they want that attention. They want that acknowledgement. I'm not that way. So rule number 2 is don't flash your bling. Rule number 3 is never reveal your full wealth. So once again, in person, I never mention how many houses I own, what my net worth is, or how much I make from my job. In person. I don't share that to my friends, my family, and my acquaintances. On YouTube, I'm way more transparent for educational purposes, and that's what draws an audience. You have to be transparent. You have to uncover everything. No stone left unturned, right? So on YouTube, I share everything. I share how many units I own, what my net worth is, how much I make on my job. But I would never do that in person. So the only people who will know are people who go from my YouTube channel, watch it, and then they know me in person. That's it. All my coworkers, they just know that I rent an apartment, and that's very relatable. If they ask me, I just say, oh, I'm looking to buy a house for myself eventually, and I'm saving up money for that. It's true, because I'm spending all my money renovating my apartment complexes, renovating my mobile home park, and managing my real estate portfolio. I haven't been able to save money because all my money I make gets reinvested back. So once my apartments are stabilized, once my mobile home park is sold, that's when I'll start to save up for a single family home to buy for myself, for me to live in. So I never reveal my full wealth, and I come off very relatable. Rule number 4 is spread your assets around. So the rich own nothing in their name. What does that mean? You have to put your assets into LLCs. All my single family homes are in LLC. My apartments are in an LLC. My mobile home park is in an LLC, and they're segregated out, right? So I might have a couple single family homes in one LLC. Each apartment complex and mobile home park has their own LLC, and those are owned by a holding company LLC. Check out my video about my asset protection plan if you want more details. But pretty much all those LLCs have ambiguous names, and no one knows that I own those. They're in LLCs, not my name. So all my properties and assets I own, it's not under my name. It's under an LLC name, which is owned by a holding company, which is owned by my trust. So it's hard to trace back who owns it. Or if you want to trace back, it requires a little more digging and work. So rule number 4, spread your assets around. Rule number 5, and this is one that I've been working on because it's hard, but it's pretend you do not understand. This is the hardest for me because I'm very educational by nature. I love to learn. I listen to at least 2 hours of podcasts a day. I am constantly reading books. I'm constantly trying to improve myself. I'm taking courses, joining mentorships to improve myself, improve my mindset. So I used to give people unsolicited education about how to pay off your student loans faster because I did it in 4 years. I paid off $250,000 of student debt in 4 years. It would just rub them the wrong way because people still have student loans despite being out of pharmacy school for 10 years. And they're just struggling to make the bare minimum payments. And me over here, I paid off in 4 years, 250K in 4 years. So it rubs them the wrong way. And I used to share, oh, you need to make sure you refinance it. You got to make sure you automate additional payments. You got to make sure that when you get your tax returns at the end of the year, you take the excess and pay off your loans. You got to ensure that you live humbly. You got to ensure that you don't lifestyle inflate. It's just all this advice, and I was just giving it to people because I wanted to share. Like, I was able to do it. You can do it too. Let me show you how. But it just ended up rubbing people the wrong way. So as a result, I just listen now. I ask questions, and if someone's explaining a concept that I already mastered, I just let them have their glory, have their moment, and instead of trying to outsmart them, or that's what they would perceive. So, for example, I had a friend who recently bought their first single family home, a condo, and she was just going on and on about how amazing it was, how the process was, and she was definitely seeking a lot of that validation and the recognition and the accolades. And I was just asking questions about, oh, how did the loan work? How much down did you have to put? Like, how long did you look for a house? And this is coming from a guy who owns 90 units of real estate. And why I ask questions, it's not to be condescending or mean or passive aggressive. It's because I might learn something. Like, she ended up using a doctor's loan, and it has a lot lower down payment option. So now it got me thinking, oh, maybe a pharmacist qualifies for that same loan. I might have low down options as well. So I learned something from that. So if you just shut up and ask questions and listen and do not try to one up that person and take their glory, number one, they will like you more. But number two, you might have the opportunity to learn something. Because maybe she does own 500 units and I can learn something from her. But she didn't, but I still learned something regardless. So that's what I learned. Just pretend you don't understand, ask questions, play it like you don't understand, and that's how you get people to like you while still being able to learn. Rule number 6 is praise others for their success. So whenever friends buy primary residence, I congratulate them. It's a huge milestone. Obviously I can easily one up them and say, oh, I already own 90 units. I bought my first house 6 years ago. You're behind. But it doesn't benefit me. If anything, it just makes my friend frustrated, resentful towards me because I one up them and took away their moment of glory. So rule number 6, praise others for their success. Rule number 7 is always stay humble. This is a lesson I learned in the past year as well, and I'm constantly trying to stay humble. My girlfriend is good at keeping me humble. So I do this by talking about my failures so others can learn from my mistakes. If you notice my channel, I always talk about my mistakes and my failures more so than my success. And I do that because despite owning 90 units of real estate, I still make a lot of mistakes. I still will continue to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes and teach people about the mistakes that I make. And the reason for that is it's easy to put me on a pedestal because I own 90 units of real estate. And a lot of people are striving to do what I did. But I want people to know that, yes, you can get there, but these are all the pitfalls. These are all the failures. These are all the hardships that you will go through, plus probably some additional ones as well. So I try to keep it very transparent so that you have a full understanding of what it's like to own 90 units. I even created a video talking about the highs and the lows of owning 90 units. It's not all rainbows and sunshine. So just be cognizant that it's not what it always appears. And it takes a lot of time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears to get there. But once that 90 units is stabilized, that's when you can sit back and enjoy all of your work and enjoy the compounding of real estate. If you listen to like Bigger Pockets and YouTube channel, all the most successful real estate investors have been doing it for 10 to 20 years at least. I'm only on year 6. So even I have a few years to go. And I'm hoping by year 10, I would have sold my mobile home park and paid off my 2 apartment complexes. And once those are owned free and clear, I have the option to leave my job because the cash flow will replace my income. And that income will always be there because they're paid off, owned free and clear. And it's actually possible to do that. I'll create a separate video talking about my strategy to pay off both my apartment complexes, which is 46 units, in about 3 to 6 years. So, and then the next thing too for staying humble is you never know who you're showing off to. So once again, imagine how stupid I would feel if I thought I was a hot shot of 90 units and I was talking to a billionaire who owns 9,000 units. By me talking and showing off, I lost the opportunity to talk to that billionaire and pick golden nuggets to learn about how he or she built their real estate empire that can help me build my real estate empire or shift my mindset or challenge a belief that I had to help me grow. By me talking, I lose that opportunity to learn and grow from somebody higher than me. And you never know who you'll come across, especially those. Like I said, the richest people are the most unassuming looking people. They dress very humbly. They drive humble cars. They don't constantly flash their wealth. But those are the richest ones. Look at Mark Zuckerberg. He just wears the same t-shirt and probably just drives the same Honda Accord that he always drove. So always be humble. By staying humble and listening more than talking, you have the opportunity to learn. So rule number 7, always stay humble. Rule number 8 is understand pop culture and sports. So that's always something that I'm really good at, and it actually surprises a lot of people. So the average American watches 6 hours of TV a day instead of producing and achieving a high level. So for me, I had to cut out TV to focus more on building my podcast, to focus more on building my real estate portfolio, to focus on learning new concepts and shifting my mindset constantly and constantly developing myself. So despite what I do with 90 units, creating content, having a course, having a mentorship, and working full time, I still make an effort to watch, sports and Netflix. For me, that's how I wind down. For me, I'm really into football, 49ers, Golden State Warriors. I'm pretty in tune with most sports. I'm pretty knowledgeable about 49ers, basketball, baseball, whatever's currently going on. And same with Netflix. There's always this new show that came out that's hot, everyone's talking about. Like, for example, right now, it's the Barbie movie. And I'm going to go try to watch the Barbie movie just to, have conversations to talk about and seem relatable. Because instead of talking about how many assets I own, I can kind of small talk about pop culture and sports. And I just know that I do all the above. So despite me owning 90 units, creating content, working full time, building side hustles and businesses, I still watch a lot of sports on Netflix, believe it or not. That's how I rest. There's always one day a week where I'm just so exhausted from everything. I just sit there and watch and binge Netflix and watch sports if they're on. So rule number 8, understand pop culture and sports. And then rule number 9 is attribute your success to luck. If people find out that you're wealthy, just say, hey, I got lucky. It seems more relatable. In a way, massive preparation increases your chance of luck. Luck is just hard work meeting preparation. That's all it is. So in reality, you honed your skills, worked hard behind the scenes over the past few years where no one saw you or noticed you, and the compounding helped you build your wealth. So that's what happened with real estate. Like, I didn't really start seeing the benefits of real estate until year 5. The first 1 to 4 years, I was just buying single family homes. Year 5, that's when I bought my apartment complexes, and that's when I started to see scale.